Hello everybody and welcome to class 7 of Hittite for complete beginners, and in today's class we're going to be taking a look at a few new vocabulary items alongside introducing the past tense and enclitic pronouns. Now for these two things we won't be taking a look in any great detail, we'll just have an overview and prepare ourselves for a little bit of a deeper dive in later classes. We are also going to take a look at an interesting text from the Hittite corpus. I think you're going to love this one actually. But before we get into that, we're going to need to go over a little bit of background information. So here on the screen, we can see the outline of the Hittite kingdom presented for us. And I would like to draw your attention to this island here. Today it is modern day Cyprus, but in the time of the Hittites, it was the kingdom of Alashiya. We don't know whether the Alashiya Kingdom was across the whole of the island or just a portion of it, but the kingdom was important because it was a source of copper, and copper was a particularly important metal during the time period. Between 1275 and 1205 BC, the Hittites and the kingdom of Alashiya fought a series of land and sea battles with each other. According to the Hittite records, and we only have Hittite records of this conflict, the Hittites won every engagement. Now, moving on to the vocab list for today's class, I have presented the key words that I would like us to focus on learning. This doesn't represent every new word that we will encounter in today's class, but they are the ones that I want us to focus on memorizing. On the left, we have the sumerograms and acadograms, and I would like to start with this one because I think it's particularly interesting because it's actually a compound of two sumerograms. Ma is the Sumerian word for ship or boat, and this second sign is the plural marker. So this would actually indicate ships and boats. Kur is the Sumerian for land, and now we have to be careful here because we have two similar signs. This one at the bottom is in italics, indicating it's an accadogram. This one, Shah, is a Sumerian word for in or at the heart of or in the midst of. Something like that. In is probably the broadest definition we could give it. A'abba is the Sumerian word for sea, and this will be particularly important in the next slide. And finally, we have our Akkadian sign, which means of. Coming on to the right hand side of the page now, we have one noun, zahai, meaning battle, in the common gender, and we have three verbs. Lukke means to set fire, hashp means to destroy, and ep means to seize or take. Now when we come to look at the text, we can identify these verbs, and then I want you to pay attention to the ending that we're going to see popping up. It's going to be the same ending, and this ending is going to indicate the past tense for first person singular. Okay, so here we have the first two lines of our text that we're looking at today. I've put the source on the top left. In the description, I'll give links to where we can find this text in full, alongside with any pertinent commentary on the text. So let's take a look at this. Let's just identify maybe the two additional things here. This combination here means 3 times. We don't need to pay too much attention to it. It's not one of the constructions that I want us to focus on today. And here we have the past form of meet. We would translate it as met. Again, we're not going to pay too much attention to this ending just at the moment. And also there is this Enclitic word that we haven't had before. Nu and can we are familiar with. We've spoken about them many times, but this here is something new. This is an Enclitic pronoun. Hittite has a few of these that it enjoys to use in this primary position. Let's take a look at those now. Okay, so here we have some of our Enclitic pronouns. Now I haven't presented all of them today. This is just something to whet our appetite. Here on the top line we have first person singular and plural mu and nash. This occurs in the accusative, dative and locative. And below we have the third person singular ash, an, and we have the third person plural e, at, ush and ash. We just need to differentiate here between the nominative common gender and accusative common gender. These enclitic pronouns always occur at the beginning of the sentence in that chain of enclitic constructions that we're now beginning to get familiar with. And now we probably have all of the information that we need to begin to get some type of meaning from these two lines. So here obviously we know this is to me. Here we have our ship with the plural marker. Here we have the determinative, which indicates that the following noun is a wooden object. So whenever you see this superscript sign, it indicates that the following word will be made from wood. You might see, for example, the signs for throne or table, chair, door, something like this. Plural marker, ship. Here we have of, again referring back to the first slide that we looked at, land. We introduced in the background this kingdom, Alashiya. Sa, we spoke about broad translation in the midst of, in the heart of. A'abba, see, 3 times. Here we have the word for battle with our case ending for the locative, which I suppose we would expect here because it's in battle, right? We're showing a position or theoretical position. And finally we have our verb that we've already talked about. So let's go over it. To me, ships of Alashiya land in the sea 3 times met for battle. And if we want to put it into more flowing English, we could say the broad translation would be the ships of Alashiya land met me 3 times in battle in the sea or at sea. Okay, so let's have a look at the continuation of this text. Okay, here we go. Now we have another one of these enclitic pronouns in the primary position. Now you'll see that nu has changed to na here. This is because of the influence of this following vowel. You'll often see that, or you will always see that when we have a vowel position here, it influences the form of the vowel in nu, so it becomes nash. But it is actually the compound of nu plus ash together. Can, we've already spoken about. Probably the only other new word here is this little ending right here, which we could translate to while. And again, referring to our vocab list that we looked at in the second slide, we can probably now begin to translate this. I asked us to focus on these endings. Obviously this is first person singular in the past, and we have harspun, which would be I destroyed, epun, I seized, and lukkun, I set fire. Again we have this enclitic chain here, sa, a'aba, in the sea. And now we can begin to give it a translation into English. Here we have, remember, ships because of this plural marker. So what would you have? I destroyed their ships while I seized them. In the sea, I set fire to them. If we wanted to make that into a little bit more flowing English, we would have I destroyed them while I seized and set fire to them in the sea. And that's it for today. So we've introduced ourselves to the past tense in Hittite. We've seen a few different examples of it. It functions similar to the present tense in the sense that we need to look for those endings to understand the conjugation of the verb. We've looked at a few new vocabulary items and we've introduced those enclitic pronouns. That's all from me for today. I hope this has been useful for you. It's been a pleasure for me to spend a few moments speaking to you about Hittite, and I'll be back very shortly with another class. All the best and goodbye.